And there we go, starting the webinar day 2 of the TTT training online. So we're here online, everybody. Ganila's going to pop in a moment, and hopefully we'll see her. But she's in Glasgow, so I told you that. So we'll just start really, really quickly to get online with everybody and just find out your experiences. We talked a little bit before we started the recording, so we've heard some stuff, but we'd like to get it online as well. So why don't you start, Rachel?
Just doing a little update.
Yeah, what's been going on with TTT since last time?
Yeah, so I've been, just reading a little bit more about it, and have had, just tried it out a little bit on my partner, tried it out a little bit for myself. Haven't yet gotten to the place of, integrating it into some of my client work yet, but just been kind of mindful about it and thinking about it as a modality to turn to, and finding it, interesting. In the moment with my partner, I was like, well, here, let's just try this. He was just having a moment of feeling really super stressed and kind of out of sorts about something, and so we use that. And yeah, it's interesting to just see kind of the person settling, when you use that particular strategy without having to speak about anything really like that.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising. To me, it was surprising when I started that, this little ritual, whatever it is, because I didn't really understand that much of it, could have a profound effect on the nervous system. And it took a while to get into the neurology and science that can give a plausible explanation for it.
Yeah, are we going to talk about that more today?
Absolutely.
I'm so curious about that part.
All
Yeah.
questions are welcome. So anything you want to know, we're just here to share. And there's plenty of science for those who are interested. And there's lots of different approaches to why this works and the hows of it.
Okay.
And I want to add that when it comes to women, specifically between 30 and 55, when during that whole period, for some that's an extended hormonal change that is happening over many years, and the hormones involved actually interact with the stress hormones and the serotonin. So it can really make an enormous difference, just relaxing the cortisol by using tapping, depending on how much that is affecting or not affecting. And that's really individual. So for some, the stress pushes it up, for some it pushes it down. And I've just been collaborating with a woman, Mia Lundin, from Her Care, that comes from California, who's been working with women for over 10 years with this. And I think her research adds to all of this. Why it's really interesting to have these tools of self-empowerment, taking that in consideration, right? Okay, cool. So you did it, you tried it out, and your partner thought, I don't know what this is, but, it seems to work. Is that the...
Yeah, he was just a willing guinea pig.
Yeah.
So, and I think he felt the process helped him to kind of settle down.
Yeah, and that's great. Cool, very well. And did you tap on him, or did you show him how to self-tap?
I tapped on him. Yeah, I did it for him. Mm-hmm.
And you probably noticed, if you want to introduce somebody to it, it's a lot easier to say, just, relax and close your eyes. I'll show you something if the trust is there already.
Yeah.
As compared to saying, I want you to do what I'm doing, which is a lot more process.
Right.
Yeah, cool. Okay, Anna.
Hello, I'm Anna. I unfortunately missed last part 1, but I have tried to. I watched there is 2 parts of part 1. I have watched the first part and a little part of the next part. But well, I live in Umeå in the very north part of Sweden, and I'm a homeopath and nutritionist and ICU nurse. So I have been treating a lot of people with other kinds of treatments. But the cause why I contacted Ulf and Gunilla and read their book was because I know a lot of children who came from Afghanistan as refugees. Well, now they're not children anymore because they have been waiting for asylum for 2.5 years now. Many of them, that Sweden slipped in. What do you say?
We admitted, or we received.
We received very many refugee children from from Afghanistan and from other countries also. And they're suffering a lot, and I really wanted to help them. And when I read about this TTT and how you two have helped a lot of refugees and traumatized people around the world, I thought this is really the thing. So I have actually, I and another colleague, we have had, actually, we used all your material from the website, and we did teach a little bit of TTT. Yes. Yeah, we followed your material. We printed it out. And
we just tried it out.
Yeah, we tried it out, and we have taught two times to people from different countries, that also for Swedish people who are suffering a lot because they're working with refugees.
And how did it work out? So you found the materials, you took them. This is interesting, and you took them from the site, and you decided to just try it.
Yeah, this is more than 1 year ago. We did this in May, and then after that, I felt that I need some more, and then we tried to come to Umeå, and you really wanted to come, but the problem was that the organizations that we contacted, that we wanted them to finance it, for example, Save the Children and Red Cross and the church, but it was so difficult to find. So then I decided to wait a little bit and do this to start with.
Yeah, and that's excellent. And you know, I think it's brave to do that, and I think it's the totally right thing to do, because there are many people who have just simply downloaded the materials and tried it out and found that it works out, and that's how simple it should be.
Yeah, it does work out, but
and it's nice to have more science. It's nice to share experiences.
Yeah, and I also treat some of my patients and some of these kids like privately with TTT. But actually, to be honest, I have forgotten a little bit about it.
Okay.
So now I'm back again. Hello. So, yeah, I will try to have my. So this is Gunilla. So I have some difficulties with the connection here. I'm in the refugee camp of Lesbos, and here the connection goes on and off. So I just try to say at least something before it disappears again. And perhaps better like this. So hello to everybody. And good that Anna could also join. It was when I tried to assist you that I disappeared somewhere out in the space here. So I'm happy that you're there, and all of the other ones of you. So yeah, good. So since I don't see now, because I have to use my telephone, I don't see how many of us are there now.
We have 5 participants plus you and me.
How many are? I answered.
5.
So you have already been sharing each and every one?
Not all of us. So we're on number 2, which is Anna. And the reason we do this, just for the rest of you, I mean, the sharing is the important part. This is where we get an idea about everybody's situation, what they're doing, why they're doing it, and your questions pop up, and that's what we deal with. So this is the beautiful sharing part, where we actually get to know more about you. Whatever it is you're doing, or whatever need you have, is interesting for everybody else who might watch this later. So thank you, Anna. Freshen it up and get some more info and get warm in it. That's great. So then we have Priscilla.
Hi. Since we met, I've been using TTT a lot, like on myself, with my clients, and with my kids. Some of my clients I had already taught how to do some EFT, so they were familiar. But then I tried actually doing it on them, which is something I had never done. And actually I felt a bit strange tapping on them. So I would do it, and then I would ask them, how was it? You know, especially some of the ones that I had already taught how to do EFT, for instance, what was the difference? And every single one of them said, I prefer it much more when you do it on me. It's so much easier to focus. I can, calm down a lot more. It becomes clearer to me what I should do when I'm doing it on my own. So that was, to me, that was really great feedback,
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, and the question that came up for me was because I can really clearly see the effect when the person's stressed and you can just see the person calming down. Now, what would it be like in terms of trauma processing? I mean, if they bring up something and you work with using TTT, so how much gets cleared up or how much work we still have to do after with more TTT or something else? So that is a question I have right now.
Okay. Yeah, from our perspective, it is like everything can be cleared more or less. I mean, without promising anything at any time, but coming from seeing the different people we have worked with and different groups of people, from really in having, you could say, almost all of the symptoms you can find that would be from post-traumatic stress, and clearing it out little by little, and sometimes after a couple of times. So that is my experience. I think, I mean, Ulf can say something about it also, and that has been both with children, like here in Moria, in the refugee camp here. I worked with this child who was very, very super angry and biting and destroying, and, you know, really complicated. And he had been coming several times to a psychologist here at Doctors Without Borders, and they have helped him a lot. But with this tapping, the symptoms completely reduced. So from my point of view, I say anything is possible with this technique in a way. But you can add something, Ulf, if you like.
Yeah, I want to say something too. I just want to add that I really, really believe that anything is possible in the aspect that you should never think
Promise
that it didn't
anything.
work, but you should not promise anything either. And we'll get back as we're looking into the science, because the question Rachel had was more about the science. We will look at the aspects of when it actually does resolve things and when it calms things down, because it's two different features of the same method. Right?
Can I ask you something, Gunilla, about this child?
Come again?
Can I ask?
Yeah.
Like I don't remember.
But just wait with it. We just go through the introduction first, and just remember, just write down the question and take it after. Yeah.
Okay. And something else, just to finish. I also taught them. I showed them all the app with Winky. And so even though it's not in Portuguese and they could not read it, they could follow the pictures. So that was really good. They had something to take home and refer to after. So that was really useful too.
Good. Thank you so much for sharing that.
And just a reminder, if they have smartphones, which they may or may not have, there's an app for Android and iOS where you have a movie that you just follow with Winky, that you don't need translated, and it's now available in 9 languages. It's all free, downloadable. It will be available in over 20. So
what's the name of the app?
Self-help.
And Portuguese is one of them. And Portuguese will be one of the languages because it is already translated.
Yep.
Self-help for trauma.
There you go. Cool, very good, yeah. But it's nice to have something you can give them and take back. All right, Trisha.
Hi. I've used it on myself, on several clients, on family members. I have a lot of clients with trauma, so I had been using TFT prior to this training. I'm in the process of getting my DCEP certification, so I'm looking for other things to use. And interestingly, you know, my clients have had really good success with the TFT, but when I introduced the TTT, they're like, oh, I like this better. It's much more straightforward. It's easier to remember. I've also printed out several of the handouts from your website, so they have a visual with the instructions. So that's been really great for them. And I like that there's so many different options on the website as well. So if they want the written part, I can give them that. If they want the visual, there's different visuals. So they have their choice, which has been really nice. yeah, I mean, just a lot. It's been very successful, and
Great.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy that you're, trying out both to see what it is that is needed in with different people, and see when people need something straightforward, you can use that. And at the same time, in a way, it's same, and then some things are different. I mean, it's tapping.
Right. I think it's easier for a lot of them because there's not
so that's why I like it.
The 9 gamut series with the TFT. I think sometimes it's just too many steps for people. Sometimes it's just, but with the TTT, it's 2 rounds, you do it. For myself, I found myself so incredibly relaxed that, I have to space myself out when I'm doing it. So sometimes I'll just show them without actually tapping on myself, because I just get so zoned out if I'm doing it patient after patient after patient. So that's my only side effect, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And that's so funny mentioning that, because when people have asked about side effects, I have said exactly that, because we had one time, me and our Rwandese colleague Robert, when we were in Rwanda, we said when we were going to certify people that, but then you have to do the treatment for me, so I feel that how you're doing it. But after number 5 or 6, we both were so spaced, we felt like, no, we have to change strategy, because this is not possible. This is not possible. I'm going to get completely out of myself if I continue. So, that was the overdose. Yeah, so you know how it is.
And unfortunately, I'm not allowed to tap on any clients for liability, even though I can see the benefit of that. Of course, on my family, not a problem.
Yeah. No.
But I could see, for a lot of people, also therapeutic touch would be really great. But, I do have those confines that I can't. So I do encourage people to go home and try it with family members, their partners.
Exactly. And that's a very good way around it, and saying that teach it to somebody, so somebody will do it for you, so they can have that experience, like Priscilla was saying, that they can have it, that it's actually, I can relax, and somebody's there to do this for me. So that's a very good way, so even if you cannot do it. Oh, great. Happy to hear those experiences too. Thank you.
What's your background when you're delivering this, Tricia?
I'm a clinical social worker.
Right. And that's why you can't touch people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All good. Thanks. All right, Joe.
Yes, I found it very useful. I've got a background. I'm an EFT practitioner and an acupuncturist in England, and I've been using EFT for quite a while. And for people that have been very upset, I've just stopped trying to get them to do EFT on themselves, and I do it on them. So I know that works very well. And it's just, if they're in overwhelm, there's no need for a story. You just keep tapping. So with the TTT, I like the regime. It's very calming, and just repeat, and then the deep breaths. It's very simple as well. So at the moment, everything seems to be online for me. So I'm hoping I will be able to give workshops on this with EFT. I can introduce, or however I'm going to get the message across. It's great for trauma, unspoken sort of tapping. And I've been passing along the video, the self-help for trauma video, been sending that to lots of people and been getting very good reports back. One person has been so fascinated, she wants to train in tapping. She's just gone into all sorts of things tapping. So, it was the initial introduction through the TTT. So that's very good.
Oh, that's nice. Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's great. Happy to hear that. Yeah. That's like trying it out and seeing what are the possibilities and limitations, and then just sharing it with others. That's exactly it. So thank you so much, Joe.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Good. So what do you think, Ulf? Should you show that? Last time we showed the PowerPoint with the images. Should you show the other one, the green-black one?
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
Yeah, I think that's good. Just do it. Go briefly through it, and then we can do some of that tapping for those. How many of you have somebody there that you can tap on? Is anybody having somebody except for Joe, who has her friend over Skype?
You mean now?
Yeah. No, you don't have any. Anna don't have any. Anybody else? Sorry, I have to move on.
All right. So we'll take it on the fly. The whole idea is that if you have somebody that you can tap on, we can watch you and give you feedback, as we can do this all at the same time. And the whole idea of that is that you simply get to experience, well, you can experience it also outside here, not naturally. So it's not necessary. It's good. Some people enjoy it. Some people find it good to get the feedback. But the important thing is that we can cover some of the theoretics and catch your questions and your whatever you're wondering about how it actually works or doesn't work, and the questions around the science. So we have this PowerPoint, and we usually use it. So let's just see if you have any specific questions. If you do.
I had a question for you.
Yes.
About the angry child that you were treating the other day.
Right.
In the refugee camp. How many times, alltså konkret betyder betong. Så.
Specifically.
Specifically, how many times do you treat a person like this? How often?
I mean, for me, it is, we have this answer to so many questions, and which is, it depends, because it depends on your availability, it depends on how much the person can do it, how much the family can do it. So in a way, there is no answer to it, except for encouraging people to do it as much as they can. Like with this angry boy here, it was not himself, it was the father who I saw was the one who could approach the boy. So I just said that, can you do this morning and evening? That's what we say as a basic recipe, morning and evening, and when something specific arises, and if it's a person that you can ask what is actually bothering you, and thinking about those things and clearing step by step those issues. So there is a basic recipe, which is morning and evening, because that will help a lot, because hopefully it will give better sleep, and then in the morning actually dealing with some of the things that are unconsciously in the night, perhaps even without you remembering, or the boy remembering it, or just waking up angry again, or seeing what it is that triggers him or her. So there is no more than that. Then just do it as possible.
But I think also an answer to this, Anna, you will get an answer to this in the PowerPoint.
We did it in Congo, and we encourage people to do it for 3 weeks.
Pardon?
Yeah, that's good.
Your last sentence got garbled. Can you say that again?
We didn't hear you.
Yeah, I think that.
He said in the PowerPoint that we
can't hear.
Yeah, you're breaking up. So I'll start the PowerPoint, and you move around and see if you can get a better connection. But yeah, the answer really is it depends. And when you think about the science of this, the model that we're working after, you will get the answer. Because in one way, TTT and all these methods are a way to cool down the stress response of the nervous system. And just cooling it down has one effect. It will lower the effects, lower the cortisol, lower adrenaline, and create a calmer state. That doesn't mean that anything is resolved unless it's done in a specific way. So what the effect will be depends on when it is applied and what state the person is in when it is applied. So if I go through the PowerPoint, you can just interrupt, you can ask questions. I won't be seeing you in the same way. So, just talk, unmute yourself and talk if you have any questions. This is a brief PowerPoint, but the idea is that we interact. Are you good with that?
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Into the wonderful world of PowerPoint. That magical space. Oh, where did it go? Here we go. So you should all see the PowerPoint now, do you?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So here's the whole idea. This is language-free help for laymen and professionals alike. Learn in 10 minutes, do it in 5. So why do we have 2 workshop meetings like this with 1.5 hours each, it's because the more theory you have, the more discussion, the more you learn about other people doing it, the easier it becomes. But in the very minimum, we actually show people in a very short while just how to do it, and basically as a first aid, they can use it. And first aid means, it doesn't mean that you can't use it to see people therapeutically, but it does mean that it's possible to use it for anybody at any point to help somebody calm down. So we start with some general essential points of mental health, which is, of course, what most people miss out. It's rest, food or water, and exercise. Imagine your body being a horse. If that horse isn't fed, if it doesn't have water, if it doesn't get rest, if it doesn't get to exercise, it won't be in a very good shape. Same goes for your body and the body of everybody else. So it's often underestimated how much that actually means in keeping mental health. Also, mental health, on contrary to a broken leg, actually doesn't happen in you. It happens between you and your environment and your social context. So move a person from one context to another, and they could be stable or unstable in one or the other, and they're the same person. So this is also vital to understand, that sometimes providing people just a safe space, if they're in a troublesome space, could be enough. Not prompting them to talk about it, just showing care, just showing that there's 10 minutes where they can relax everything, that can be as useful as the actual intervention. Acceptance is a very essential part. When you fight an emotion, when you fight a feeling, you try to put a lid on it, you clench your teeth, you break them, you push it aside, and you can go for days and maybe years until one day your mental immune system, your resilience is down, then it all comes flooding you. So we recommend acceptance of whatever emotion there is rather than trying to fight it. Looking for a meaning is a very important part. I don't know if you've read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. It's one of the most read books in the world about, he was I think it was a psychologist or a psychotherapist. He went to one of the concentration camps for 3 years. He had a script for a whole idea about therapy that was burnt in the beginning, but then he wrote it all when he came out, and he's the founder of something called logotherapy, which means a therapy that looks from the meaning of things, finding a meaning in everything that happens to you. And once you find the meaning, you can move on in a different way. And you do a lot of that in your work, Rachel. I acknowledge that. I think that's very nice. Rachel has a program for getting out on the other side of sexual abuse and beyond surviving, actually thriving, which is what meaning is all about. Empowerment is another thing. Empowerment means we don't come and offer help from here to somebody. We simply share a method that worked for us and that might work for them. So we try to avoid every form of expertise or I'm helping you, we're sharing something. Because the whole idea is to empower people to help themselves and their community. To be prepared, the more you are prepared for a situation, the less it will affect you. If you're thinking, oh my God, I hope nothing happens, in a way you're prepared, but when it happens, you're disappointed. If you're thinking, it could happen, it's not good if it happens, but I will survive it and I will learn something from it, chances are that your resilience is so much higher. So the difference between an emergency worker, a professional, a healthcare professional, or a soldier, or a fire worker, or military is trauma is a part of their work, and in part they've accepted it before it happens, which actually creates a bigger resilience. So you focus on the now and forward, meaning both you and your clients, it's better if you think, I'm here and I need to get to this other place where I feel better, rather than ruminating or asking questions about why it actually happened to you, because denial is a normal stage in everything, but it doesn't actually get you in that many places. And we find that actually simply tapping on the feeling that you have about all of this can speed up that process of acceptance and getting past denial into actually moving into where should I go from now. So the strategies are about self-regulation, and we call it this. Tapping is a strategy for self-regulation. So is cold water. So is social interaction. So is taking a shower. So there's so many ways of doing this. We're not claiming TTT to be the only one, but it's one of the most efficient ones that we know. Now, when it comes to working without words, there are some things about that. If you're familiar with EFT, where there is a setup phrase, it's because this is an exposure therapy. And exposure therapy means activate your nervous system to whatever that is that you would like to deactivate. And if you don't activate it, we will say it's like turning on the shower and not getting in. There is a shower, it works, but you're not actually there. So how do we do that without setup phrases and affirmations, and why do we do it without words? Well, there's many reasons. It's not necessary, is one. If you connect ever so lightly to whatever it is, that's, for us, in our experience from these 10 years, that's enough. The neurological circuit that you want to depotentiate or lessen needs to be activated. Thinking ever so lightly about whatever it is that bothers you, notice that feeling, give it a number, and regulate or have help regulating it is enough. Affirmations is something that, when worded truly, can be of help. When worded untruly, actually, for people who are not feeling stable, they actually can make you more depressed. So for a person feeling in the face of, oh my God, why did this happen to me? I really feel unlucky about it. Saying I love myself is actually not true yet. It's a hope that it will be true and that we'll feel that way. But some people actually feel worse because they don't succeed in convincing themselves. So saying I would like to love myself more every moment would be a true affirmation for anybody. And so we're very careful with how you word them if you use them, and we rarely use them for that reason. We never ask people about their experiences. They can keep that to themselves. If they want to share it, if they need to share it, that's fine. But for a lot of people, different cultures, talking about it to a stranger or just even talking about it can be detrimental. It doesn't have to be. So it's always up to them. The reason for this...
Can I just add something there?
Yeah.
Can I add something?
Of course.
Yeah, I don't have the video now because it's, yeah. So it is just, you can come to, I was just in Albania before coming here to Greece. And in Albania, where there has been no trust after there were, I don't know how much you know about Albania, but there was a long period of dictatorship under the Enver Hoxha. And there was so much of this surveillance of intelligence guys moving around that trust between people is completely gone. So talking about things it's just not the thing. I mean, therapists and it's the stigma of going to somebody, but not only the stigma, but just the thing of talking about what you went through during that time is not an option for most people. So there, when you can present something, and they all nod when I say that, I mean, I had a workshop there this last Friday, saying that, yeah, because it seems here people don't want to talk about anything. You know, they don't want to tell anybody, even in a closed room. They all just nod and say, yeah, that's true, you know. So, and the same in Rwanda, it's a very secret culture. People don't like talking about their experiences with anybody, especially not with a stranger in a closed room. So it has all this different, but at the same time, those who want to talk, perfect.
Yeah. And that's it. So we also say
to listen. It's
sorry? Are you okay? Okay. So also, it's the word of Dr. Carl Johnson, our mentor. He always says, no unnecessary suffering. These people have suffered this once. They don't need to suffer it again by talking about it. Now, some therapies do that. They talk about it as part of the therapy, and that's fine, and you can integrate tapping with it. This is our philosophy, working with groups from what we see works. That's funny. Okay, those are the 3 points. I thought there was one more. So the next step, make stress and trauma your friends. They're actually there to help you. If you understand stress, that it's actually a safety feature, it's there to save your life, and it does things to do that. And the times where stress actually doesn't help you is it's intended as a short-term survival feature. and it has functions that allows you to save your life. Now, that's fine when it's a short period, but when you use stress over a long time, you're actually creating a kind of fatigue in the system that can backfire, which again has to do with hormones and how you react to them. And the stress hormone of cortisol and adrenaline, if they're produced over a long time, affect your system differently and produces symptoms. And if you understand that, it helps. And also if you understand the encoding of trauma, because stress is one thing, and long-term stress can affect your bowel system, it will affect your immune system, your short-term memory, it can cause chronic pains because your immune system is low, it can cause chronic headaches, it can cause constipation. All these physical symptoms, once you understand that they actually can relate to stress, takes away the stigma and the shame of these symptoms being unexplainable. Because you go to the doctor and you tell the doctor, I have all these symptoms, and the doctor might say, there's nothing wrong with you, because there's nothing measurably wrong. So it's kind of nice to understand that this is not actually measurable, but it's because of how the stress system works. The trauma encoding that we like people to understand is that of Dr. Ronald Rudin, the way he describes it, and Bessel van der Kolk. And it's very simple. When you experience an event where there is no escape and something of value to you is at great risk. It could be your reputation, your economy, a family member, pain, a limb. It could be anything that you find traumatic, because trauma is personal. When something like that is at stake and you can't escape, your system goes into a fight and flight mode, and it will send out hormones that encode anything that happened the seconds before this and during this as a traumatic memory with a predefined pattern of reaction. So if at the time when whatever happened to you happened, maybe it was this person who attacked you. Well, of course, a person running towards you or moving towards you could trigger that fight or flight reflex later. But also, if you were chewing gum, or if you heard a certain song, or if there was somebody whistling, or if there was you had certain clothes on, or you were lying down or standing up, the body has specific memories of this. So for some people, if they were assaulted, for example, in a bed, just lying down in a bed can trigger that whole fight and flight system, because the body says, uh-oh, we're here again. And talking about it might not trigger it, but getting to that position might do it. So if you want to tap on it and resolve it, it's good to understand that you might not always be able to explain what triggers your anxiety, because it's encoded subconsciously with lots of stuff that you have no idea about. And simply understanding that makes it easier to understand how you can decode it. So understanding traumatic reactions is part of that. So basically, a person who usually feels good and everything is fine, and their normal stress levels in life just rise a little bit, so their bucket is more full, and then something reminds them subconsciously about a traumatic incident, then they can get a panic attack, and there's no logical explanation for it, because what triggered it wasn't something you're used to. Another thing is the transference of trauma. Usually parents transfer their trauma to their children. If mom has a fear of flying, the kids will pick it up. If dad has a fear of open spaces, the kids will pick it up. But also in the womb, because in the womb from 22 weeks, you are sharing your mother's nervous system. So evolutionary, from an evolutionary point of view, could say that if there's a specific frog that sounds like, and the mother becomes very tense and anxious because it's a poisonous frog, then actually the fetus in the womb, even if there isn't even a brain of memory there yet, can actually encode fear connected to that sound and react to that once they're born. And that's the beauty of the whole mechanism. It's also the flip side. So trauma can be transferred. And if you're working with people who are traumatized, your mirror neurons will pick up on their stress, because every human will alert every other human to dangers. So if you see people who are in a very stressed condition every day, that will rub off on you. And it's good that you take care of yourself with a kind of mental hygiene, as in tapping between clients or getting rid of whatever that energy is. Somatization, I touched on it. When these symptoms go for a long while, they show up in your body in different places, and not only in your body, in behavior. So when we, for example, talk to these kids in Congo, you know, when they understand that falling out of the bed at night and breaking your arm, or wetting your bed, or promiscuous behavior, unsafe behavior, whether sexual or not, can actually be a sign of trauma. So treat the trauma and the behavior can go away. The same thing goes for self-medication with drugs. Understanding that self-regulation is possible is basically the main thing. So the toolbox of TTT, and we say TTT toolbox because that's what we usually talk about, and that's the trauma tapping technique, but our toolbox is a lot wider than that. So we call it tension tapping technique when people aren't really focused on trauma because they're thinking trauma, that's not me, I'm just very stressed. So we just call it the same thing, same abbreviation, it's the same method. Trauma tapping technique is another way of phrasing it. We teach head holding techniques, as in TAT, tap as acupressure technique, and a lot of them are very simple techniques. You can try it out if you don't know them. You put your thumb at the base of your skull, your hand on the back of your head, the other hand on your forehead, and just hold lightly, and maybe just press a little bit in and out, or just hold the space. And that can actually work wonders with chronic migraines and tensions. When people have a headache, it might not be that pleasant to be tapped. For some people, it's sensitive. So we do head holding.
Yeah, it's a very, I mean, all these techniques that we are sharing, I mean, and having this toolbox, we keep combining. I mean, we combine, of course, everything all the time, whatever you have, depending on who it is. Again, depending on who you're working with, if they like holding, I mean, for some it might be irritating with this tapping stuff, but holding the head, like Ulf says, with migraine and headaches, is a beautiful, simple thing. And we also did it in some of the prisons in Rwanda. And then we said, oh, so then you can try to hold again for the other, because we keep doing that all the time. And then actually they did it in our mind. We were thinking, yeah, one at a time will hold the head of the other, but they held each other at the same time. And of course, a huge connection. It was, you know, it was like, wow, yeah, of course, you know. So all these things are techniques that we keep using, telling people. So in every training, we see to that people at least have got 4 of them or so, and many of them are simplified versions of something that you also can get certified in, but you can also use them just in the most simple way, and they work.
Yeah. So the next one here, no, that's great. The next one here is called alpha theta breathing, and there you may debate whether it's the actual specific alpha brainwave going to the specific theta, but the whole idea is when you take control of your breathing, or 3 of those, breathe in and you hold your breath and you breathe out. If you do that twice, you're actually changing the regulation of your nervous system quite a lot. And there are so many breathing techniques like 478 or 444 or box breathing that do affect the nervous system and downregulate a lot. And the reason we have that is the actual breath that we do in the middle and after the 2 rounds of tapping, because it's simpler than eye movements and it's very efficient and calming. So sometimes we tell people to use that on its own. And all these first techniques here are for calming down the nervous system into a very calm state. But if you have adrenaline high and you just need to use some of your surplus adrenaline and rebalance your carbon dioxide and your muscle tension, then blowout is a lot simpler. And you can see me at the same time, right? You see me in the corner, or can you only see the PowerPoint? You see me too?
Yeah.
Okay, so blowout is quick. You only see the PowerPoint?
I don't see the PowerPoint. I only see the people now.
Oh, you have gallery view. So you click on in the upper corner where it says Gallery View. You click on that, you should get the PowerPoint.
Right up in the right corner, there are different symbols.
Top right.
Top right.
Top right, yeah, but it doesn't have anything here. It just says, well, keep going. I'll try to find this.
Okay, I'll be okay. So I can stop the sharing for a sec, and we can go back here into this. So the blowout is you put your hands in the air. You can all do it. Breathe in through your nose and hold your breath. And then you pull down and breathe out pretty hard. So we can do it together 3 times. There you go. And that's called blowout. So it loosens up your muscles that are stiff when you're tense and stressed. You're using excess adrenaline that makes you shake, and you're rebalancing the carbon dioxide in your belly and the oxygen in your brain, taking control of your breathing.
And people find it it's very good to do it in group also. To make a group feel belonging together, you know. So we often do it when doing group trainings, this blowout. And also Ulf uses these training these football teams and other guys before the match, which is a very good leveling, so you don't have more adrenaline than you actually can handle.
And then we have Do In, which is a self-massager. There's a video on the website. You'll get a link afterwards so you can try it. It's a series of movements and tappings and rubbings on the body that reinvigorate your whole system. It's a
Japanese self-massage. You can find many of them, but I mean, one of the videos is from on our website. But it's an old traditional self-massage from Japan.
Yep. So here we are, working in cross-cultural groups. What does that actually mean with cross-cultural? Now remember, I kind of like the saying that a doctor from one country and language and or religion, and a doctor in another one will have more in common than a doctor and a janitor from the same, or musician and a doctor, or whatever. There's culture and culture. So cross-cultural doesn't necessarily have to be language. It could be any social context. And when you work in these groups, we usually use a greeting, which I think we did last time. Did we do that with the clapping? So we do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, me, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, you, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and the world. And that is a way of bridging over cultural barriers, doing anything together where people invest physically into the actual meeting. We also do a lot of being seen and being named. So basically, everybody gets to say hi and why they're there and their name. And sometimes we ask people, if somebody says, hi, my name is Rachel, everybody goes, hi, Rachel. And everybody starts laughing because it feels like you're in school again. But it's nice because it brings people into the here and now and the room. And it makes everybody conscious of everybody else. We also try to find allies. So we very rarely try to impose what we're teaching on people. We try to find somebody who everybody already listens to, who's the informal leader of this group. And maybe we talk to them first, or we allow them to be part of the presentation. We tread carefully and allow everybody to maintain their integrity at all times. Nobody has to share unless they want to. And we have a kind of setup for if you're doing tapping in a big group of people, how can you make them all connect slightly to whatever they want to tap on? We have something called a somatic poem. There's a video of it on the website. It's described in the book. It's basically walking through your senses, and everybody just repeats after the person leading it. You know, imagine a rain falling on your head, on your skin, everything you've seen, everything you've heard, everything you've felt, and down on the ground. So it's just ways to physically and with play, in a playful manner, get people to connect to whatever they want to tap on. We find music extremely useful because we use tapping also in songs and in music. We have people sing along and do the tapping. It's easier to remember. They can create their own version of it. But also, singing in rhythm gets you out of the traumatized or stressed state because the stressed body is tense. And when you loosen up and have people move around, actually, a lot of the work happens on its own. And all kinds of games, whatever games that might be. So Gunilla has invented this beautiful technique for loosening up kids in any age from 4 to 94, and that's PTB, as we call it, pass the balloon. You have a balloon and you just bounce it into the group, and people will start, sending it back and forth, lifting their heads, and actually loosening up to be part of an interaction. And that's extremely helpful in groups. Laughter. We find laughter to be the #1 healing method of all. Basically, if any client you have or a group of people can kick into laughter, chances are that it's even more powerful than tapping, and the combination is excellent. So we're getting through this PowerPoint. Self-help versus helping others. And this is kind of our manifest in a way. We offer, we don't insist. So we don't say, I can help you. We say, I know something that has helped me and some others. If you want, I can show it. If they're not ready for it, we never insist. We always agree before we start on continuing until calm, because emotions are layered like the skins of an onion. So underneath frustration or paralysis, there could be frustration. Underneath that, there could be anger. Underneath that, there would be tears. Underneath that, there could be calm or just a void or emptiness. And then you fill the emptiness with something and you move on. And you never know what layers people are going to be working through. So just telling them, I might be able to help you. Let's tap on this. And if something pops up, we can just keep tapping on it because it will resolve. When we help others, we always sit like two ships passing. So we never sit in front of them. We always sit next to them, so that if for any reason they feel cornered or threatened or go into some previous feeling, they have a free access to move out from there. It's also a lot less imposing between gender. It's kind of rude to sit as a man spread-legged in front of a woman reaching over to help if you're going to be tapping. Sitting next to is very easy and maintains integrity. And when we're going to do tapping on somebody, we always explain on ourselves first. We say, I'll be tapping here, I'll be tapping there, I'll be tapping here, here, on the side, and on your fingers. Is that okay? And by showing on yourself first, you're actually helping them understand what's going to happen, and it's easier for them to relax. There are no surprises. It's also very good to know distraction techniques. Gunilla, are you still there? Okay, so maybe we lost Gunilla, maybe not. I usually ask her the question here, Gunilla, during all these 10, 12 years now. Yeah, it's time for the question where I ask you, during all these years, how many times have you ever had somebody go into a full reaction or flooding?
What? I don't understand.
Did you hear me?
I don't understand what you said.
Okay, so usually I ask Gunilla how many times during all these years she has ever had somebody go into an abreaction of flooding, that they go so much into their memory that they actually become it and they're stuck in it. An abreaction is quite unpleasant. It's people go back fully into the event as if it is happening again. And usually Gunilla will say, and I will second her saying, this has never happened. It's never been necessary, because we tell people to connect ever so lightly. And yeah, there you go. Yes? So when you get back, Gunilla, you can just pop in and talk. Your connection is out, so right now we don't hear you. And having said that, one of the ways that you can keep people, if you're concerned about it, a very easy way to pull people a bit back is instead of interrupting and saying, oh my God, you're crying, you know, you just acknowledge what you see and say, tears, that's great, you know, tears are good. And, you know, just acknowledge those tears and see what's behind them. But if people start getting a high breathing and, you know, they're saying, oh my God, I'm feeling, you know, I feel very uncomfortable, then distraction techniques is just asking them for the date, to count backwards from 20 in steps of 3, to spell their name backwards, because all these things engage the brain and the parts that go offline when you go into that reaction, which stops it. So just knowing very simple distraction techniques. Even
Sorry, I didn't get the distraction techniques, the last sentence.
The distraction techniques?
Yeah.
Yeah. So distraction techniques are things that engage the parts of the brain that go offline in an reaction.
Which were they? I didn't get the last question, the last sentence.
You can ask them to spell their name backwards, or anybody's name backwards. Because to do that, they will have to visualize it, engaging the frontal cortex and the visual cortex, which means that they're actually engaging the parts of the brain that would pop offline if they were to go into that reaction. Counting backwards. Look at the finger. Sorry?
If they're an alphabet? If they're analphabeto, if they cannot spell.
Then you can ask them to say 5 colors. Yeah. Anything that engages the cognitive part of the brain, the frontal cortex, that uses visual information or mathematical information will work. So that's why it's called a distraction technique. And of course, trusting the method is a big help, because if you transmit that I've done this, it's cool, don't worry, I've got you, you need to provide the safe space for them. Saying, I might be able to help you, but I don't know and I'm not sure, and tell me if it's wrong, that's not really gonna cut it for a lot of people. So just showing confidence and showing that you trust the method will help them trust the method. And the only way you can do that is actually by tapping people so that you notice that it works, because we're not asking you to fake it. So just by actually tapping, you will notice that it works, and that will gain your confidence. And you bring humor and support, right? So there's a misunderstanding, I don't think you have it, but I'm just mentioning it. There's a misunderstanding that when you're helping people who have been through extreme traumatic experiences, you should be very serious and supportive of their mood where they are. That's usually not what people want. They want you to give them a hand from above to help them up, which means you're telling them, you know, I sympathize with you and I'm here to help you. And this is what we're going to do. It's going to be okay. Sharing, using empathy to share their experience actually makes a lot of people feel worse. Not saying that it won't help in any case, because some people need to hear that. But usually it will also drain your energy, because you're tapping into their low energy instead of providing positive energy. So we usually bring a lot of humor and support. We see ourselves as siding up beside them. You know, we're going, hey, you know, we're going to do this together. I'm going to be here, relax, sit down, you know, I'll show you what I'm going to do, and you let me know what you're feeling. Does that make sense for you?
Yes.
And always after providing a tapping session, we congratulate them. So we don't say, do you feel better? We don't say, is it good? We say, what do you notice? Because whatever they feel is correct for them. If we say, do you feel good? They might want to please us, even though they don't feel good, and say, yeah, thanks a lot, you know, it's wonderful. And maybe it wasn't. But if they just notice what's going on, it's easier for them to be neutral and objective. And if they say, well, you know, I don't feel as much of it, then you say congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, do you hear me now?
Yes, now we hear you. And now we don't. Sorry, we don't hear you.
You don't hear me?
Now we hear you. Now we hear you.
Yeah. So, no, but I was just thinking of, I mean, we're going to have this workshop with Judith Simon Prager, who wrote this book, Verbal First Aid. And if you haven't read it, do read it. And there, the most basic for anything is, of course, that to come to somebody with that sense of safety and calm, because that's what you need. And some kind of, she called it authority, saying, I mean, I'm here with you, you know, and we're going to do this together, like Ulf said, coming up on the side of it, and like taking somebody's hand, just that, even the basics of Western medicine coming from Hippocrates here in Greece would say that hold the patient in the hand, you know, because that brings trust. So that is one of those other basic techniques. I do it here all the time because there come these clients and refugees into the medical clinic where I work, and just holding somebody's hand makes so much sense, especially if somebody is so high stress that they are cramping their own hand. I just had a client there now who was almost catatonic and cramping their hands, and then just slowly unfolding the hand and holding it, you know, while doing some of these different stuff that we are teaching you brings such a difference. So they were just like, wow, she had been in that state for 35 minutes. And then after some few minutes of some tapping, some holding, some talking, just that, some verbal first aid and some of this other physical first aid, and holding the hand and being present and calm. Wow. It is like magic, but it's just the basics of any kind of human relationship. That was my adding.
Beautiful. So we're rounding off the PowerPoint now, and this is something that happened because me and Gunilla, we couldn't read the maps. So we thought we were going to take a 2-hour car ride from Los Angeles to, what was the place called, Gunilla?
Santa Clara was it?
Yeah,
or
Santa Clara.
Something close to San Francisco at least.
Yeah, there's 2 of them. So one is 2 hours away and one is 7.5 hours away. And we were jet lagged in a rental car. And we were falling asleep, you know, trying to wake each other up there, you know, see if we could survive that trip. So we said, let's do something useful. Let's make a manifesto. Let's see, what is it that we think is the core thing that anybody who wants to help anybody with tapping could think about as a help in the attitude of offering help. So this is it. Number 1, take your shoes off and listen first. It's more important to listen than to talk. And usually finding out what is the culture here, what is it that's happening, what's actually going on. And that goes with one person and it goes with a group of people. You're coming from a place of wanting to learn, not from a place of wanting to help. Wanting to learn about this person. Who are they? What do they actually need? What can they teach you? Because that way they will feel seen and heard. You're coming inspired. Inspired because this is something good and great. You're there to have an exchange with people, so it should feel good to be able to do that. But also you need to dare to fail, because if you don't, you're not going to dare to try. And Anna, what you did, you know, you downloaded some materials and you tried it, and that's exactly what it's all about. You dare to try. And some people may say, you know, how can you dare to fail with something this serious? Well, the opposite goes as well. How can you dare not to try with something this serious?
I must say that your material is very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That makes us very, very happy. We put a lot of work into hoping that somebody will use it exactly the way you did, you know, that it would work on its own. So thank you for that.
It works, yeah.
Beautiful. So we also say, use what you have. Don't wait until you have enough time or money or a better position or more experience, because the person in front of you might need just their hand to be held and for you to at least try. That might be more important than being perfect. And we just say, don't ever take credit for healing whenever or wherever it happens, because it's not about you if you're helping people. It's about them. It's about what they did. And we also say, for people saying it's so hard, I can't finance this, I need a grant, I've been applying for money. Well, we say, why don't you consider instead paying your way? if necessary. Because not that you should or that you shouldn't make money, but just consider, you know, that sometimes the difference you make might be enormous in the one moment when there is no funding, and the next day you will be funded and it will all even out anyhow. And again, we emphasize bringing humor and stability. We say know your limits because we don't think that you should say I can handle anything, you know, oh, no worries, I'll take care of it, unless you actually know what you're talking about. So of course there's a balance between when do you know your limits and when do you dare to fail? And the answer you already know, it depends. And that's why the next thing is everything depends. We also say as advice from the heart, really heartfelt, avoid every stereotype. Everyone you can find, just simply avoid it. Because as soon as you stereotype, which is a very cool tool that allows us to interact with people we don't know, it's a filter through which we watch people and we miss who they actually are. Just seeing the person and trying to take your shoes off and listen is more efficient than thinking. For example, we often run into people saying, oh, women who have been violated, you shouldn't tap on them because they won't want somebody touching them, especially not a man. And that is simply not true. I'm not saying it's not true, but it could also be the opposite, that actually providing a safe zone and showing that it's possible could, for some, be exactly what is needed. Would you agree, Rachel? Yeah. So, respect every person as if they are your friend, neighbor, or mother, or father-in-law, or stepson. You know? And respect every person as if you will share a lifeboat with them. And the technique, whatever technique you're using, is part of the solution. Learn the rest. You know, the rest is about different cultures and joy and life and existential meaning and philosophy and whatever there is. The more you bring to the table of just human interest, the easier it is to connect. And the technique that you're using is part of that.
Yeah, and it of course connects to want to learn and be inspired, you know, and just seeing what people do and checking what people do for themselves to get out of stress and perhaps adding something so people feel recognized, coming back to that, be seen and heard and saying, aha, you did that, oh, that's good. And showing really that we learn together, because that's how this work for us has evolved. It's picking up things everywhere and coming from this word that we keep using from the language of Rwanda, which is the language, it's called Kinyarwanda, where they have this saying of Turi kumwe, which means we are all here together. We share this world together, and we have constantly to learn and to from each other.
You're really breaking up, Gunilla.
So for us, this Turikumwe is so much of this.
Yeah.
Yes. To go on.
So, Turikumwe, we all belong together, and that's how it works. So we have here the last point in our list. Last point in our list is going to be prepared for miracles, because that actually does happen, and it's actually happens more than we think. So Gunilla, can you hear me?
I hear you very well.
Yeah, okay. So if you take over 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so I mean, it's now 5 minutes before we have finished the one, and understand there's nobody really have there. Is somebody there that you can tap on? to somebody.
Ulf, you are muted. We cannot hear you, Ulf. You're muted. And we cannot hear Gunilla either.
So there are videos on our website.
There we go. Sorry, Gunilla. I will have to take over, Gunilla, because you're breaking up. I'm sorry. There we go, and she's up. I'm sorry about that. But here we are. So summing it all up, I didn't hear the last thing she said. Could anybody tell me that?
No.
No? Okay, that's all right. So what we're meaning is that the whole idea of this is that we actually, we're sharing stuff together, we're offering this to people, and we hope that you, with this information and the manifesto, that you feel safe enough to go out and try this with people. Now, the time is running out. We were wanting to do a tapping on people. Did anybody have somebody they brought to be tapped on here today? I know that you had one, Joe, on the Skype, but that would actually be the same as a self-tapping in this case. Anybody else bring somebody? No. So that's cool then. In that case, I would rather encourage you to watch the tapping videos that we do have. They show tapping on others. It's very easy. A lot of people have learned it from the video, and it's not hard. I welcome you to join as many webinars as you want, because you're welcome to. So if you do want to join a day 2 where there is tapping on somebody else and you want to share the last part, you're free to do that. If you want to just have a little one-on-one help with that, you can mail us and we can help you. But it's really, really simple. So I would prefer that we use the last minutes here for FAQ, for questions and answers, Q&A. Whatever thoughts you have, whatever ideas, whatever you want to resolve. I don't know, Rachel, if I've looked in the science enough, and Tricia, please go ahead.
A question and a comment. First, the question. Like I mentioned, that I do the TFT with clients, and I do bilateral tapping with most of them. So a lot of clients have asked, with the TTT, can you also do, instead of doing one side and then the other, can you do it bilaterally and do 2 rounds? Okay.
Absolutely.
And my comment is, I really like at the end when we say, what do you notice? I think not only is that a good reminder for myself to not say, you know, how much better do you feel? Not that I would necessarily ask that, but it also guides my clients to look and connect with what they're feeling physically as well as emotionally. Because so many are like, oh, I'm really stressed, or they'll say, oh, my stomach hurts, but it's hard for them to put those 2 things together sometimes. So after we do the TTT and I say, well, what do you notice in your body? And they're like, oh, I didn't realize that my chest was so tight before, but now it's, you know, I can feel that, or my heart rate's slower. And then that really is a good leadway for a lot of patients to be like, you know, to talk about some of the connections between our emotions and our physical bodies, even though, you know, I can talk about it all I want. When they experience it, especially when the change is so dramatic from, you know, having a headache or chest tightness and then doing a round of TTT, and they're like, wow, okay, you know, I'm really starting to get that now.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thanks. We find that helps a lot. Simply having people understand the connection between actual physical symptoms and how they can suddenly release. It's quite an eye-opener. Rachel?
I thought the distinction between using TTT as a relaxation technique or like an interceptor for a triggered or a stress state, and using TTT as a trauma resolution strategy. I think that's really interesting to hear those 2 distinctions. And I think I would probably, when we talk again, want to hear more about what is distinctly different about the way that you're approaching it. And I think I have it, but I'm not 100% sure. So maybe a little more on that. How do you distinguish, or how do you set it up differently when you're using it in these 2 different ways?
I can say that directly. It's not a long answer.
Okay.
If you do tapping without thinking about anything in specific, you will calm down your nervous system. So that's tension tapping.
Okay.
If you have any feeling in your body that something triggered in your environment or thought triggered, that is a post-traumatic reaction if it's a forceful one. So if it's active ever so lightly and you do tapping and calm down the system while that reaction is there, it's a treatment. It actually involves treatment. It will resolve those systems. Because if your nervous system on one hand has the trigger and the reaction, and on the other hand has calm, it will take away that reaction.
The trigger response. Okay. Yeah. All right. Without naming it or understanding it or dialoguing about it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. Good.
Anybody else?
I have
Yes?
one question. About what stress, in the rubric you said about make stress and trauma to be your friends, being your friends. You talked about coding, understand coding of trauma. I don't understand. What is that? Coding.
Encoding means...
That's in Swedish.
Yeah, okay. Hur trauma sparas i kroppen och hur du kan lösa upp hur det har sparats. You all got that, right?
Yeah. Sure. And one more question. Also you mean that the cells have a memory. A trauma can be memorized by the cells, by the body. Is it about that?
Well, it's actually more specific. When you experience a traumatic reaction, your body will excrete hormones that encode everything in your senses that was present as a warning list so that you could avoid that reaction in the future. So anything you heard, saw, felt, smelled, tasted, your body position, colors, anything that could be a warning so that you can avoid this in the future might trigger it. And that's encoded in your senses, in the memory, in the amygdala.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah. One more question about music. I'm also a musician. Do you have any TTT tapping song in Swedish or in Dari?
No, not yet. We're waiting for you to do that.
Okay. Yeah.
Perfect.
One in Dari and one in Swedish.
Very good. That's what we will be waiting for.
Priscilla and Joe?
No, to me, I mean, I think the information was really, really good. I like the manifesto also at the end. I think that's a very nice way of approaching things. And I'd just like to say that I'm going to have to leave because I have a client waiting now.
Go help your client.
I think we're going to break up, all of us.
We're going to break up. We'll just have Joe left. Do you have 2 seconds so we can get Joe's comment as well?
Oh, well, thank you. Interesting. I need to practice with more people in person. And great. I have other questions, but it's too long.
But you always write them. Any questions you write in an email or call us again,
Will do.
And we'll be happy.
Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful.
Thank you.
And feel free to sign up for any other webinar that we post and just pop up in the beginning, ask some questions, and then you can leave. I mean, it's all fine. We're all good. We're all the same team, right? So we don't have to be formal about stuff.
How do we get the certify?
Well, all the information is on the website.
There is one of the columns is about certification. It says certification even says. So it's 6 cases, answer 24 questions, and sign a code of ethics.
Okay.
It's all online.
Yeah.
And it's simple.
Good. Awesome.
Thanks,
guys. It's really good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Look at good morning. Look at you, dear. What a trooper. Thank you, everybody. So nice to be here with you all.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.